McMorris.
John, just a minute.
Online, John.
Alderman Middleton, can you hear us?
And your camera was muted the whole time until just Alderman McMorris there.
I couldn't hear you either.
So you are okay now?
Yeah, you're on muted. You're on muted now, so we can hear you. But just to note, I am here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, is that Alderman McMorris? Yeah,
It is,
thank
yeah.
you. Alderman Middleton,
Here, John, online.
Alderman Montgomery.
Here.
Alderman Wilkinson. Councillor Jason Barr.
Here, John.
Councillor Lillian Barr.
Here.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Apologies, John.
Councillor Boggs. Councillor Boyle.
Here.
Councillor Clark.
Sure.
Councillor Cusick.
Running late, John, but we'll join shortly.
Councillor Deeney.
And sure.
Councillor Devine.
And sure.
Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Alex Duffy. Councillor Sandra Duffy.
No.
Councillor Farrell. Here. Councillor Fleming.
Shop.
Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
And shop.
Councillor Heaney.
Shop.
Councillor Hutton.
Sure.
Councillor Jackson.
Shop.
Councillor Leonard. Councillor Logue.
Sure.
Councillor McDade.
Here.
Councillor McGinley.
Sure.
Councillor McHugh. Councillor Mooney. Councillor Murphy. Apologies from Councillor Norris. Councillor O'Farrell. Councillor Riley. Councillor Tierney.
Here, John.
Councillor Anelis.
Sure.
Thank you, members.
Okay, members, the next is the broadcasting statement, and I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeating viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making these records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak, and a copy of the council private notice may be found on the council's website. Okay, next agenda item is members' declaration of interest. Feel free to put your hands up if you are here in the chamber. Thank you, Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. Declare that 18C.
That's it. Noted. And if you are online, please just let us know through the chats. Okay. I have a couple of chairperson's business, and I am going to invite members in the order that I received them. So we will kickstart with Councillor Logue. Oh, no.
Do you want to go on to somebody else? Just do it, swallow, thank you.
Okay, we'll move into Alderman Middleton if you are ready and you have 2 items.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. Just briefly, firstly, I just wanted to remind everyone that our local farmers still very much need our strong united support against the diabolical Labour-imposed family farm tax. As I've said countless times, without our farmers, we have no food. And secondly, it gives me so much great pleasure on behalf of the DUP to warmly congratulate our friend and our colleague Alderman Chelsea Cook and her partner Craig on the safe arrival and birth of her lovely daughter Harriet. So congratulations, Chelsea. We're all really pleased for you.
Thank you, Alderman. Yeah, very many congratulations to Councillor Cook and family, and welcome to the world, to the little girl. Okay, should we come back to you?
Thank you, Mayor. And I suppose if you will allow me, just on behalf of our party too, we just want to send our congratulations to Councillor Cook on the birth of her daughter. Yes, Mayor, I just want to welcome the news that the business case for the public realm element of the urban villages scheme has been approved. This is something that council officers, councillors and other members of the community that have been working on this for a brave number of years, and I see Karen nodding there, and she'll know what I mean. But anyway, it's really, really good that it has got to this stage. So we just look forward now to rolling out what it all involves. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. Any other members? So it's definitely great news for the city. Okay, I'll move on to Alderman Hosse.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mayor. Like several other members, both in the chamber and I believe at MLA level, I've received a communication of concern received at the beginning of this week from Strabane Rugby Club. There's a concern as to the progress with regard to the D1 acquisition of the Strabane Grammar School site. And what I would request is that the club be granted a meeting with the chief executive and the lead officer on the D1 process, just to bring everybody up to speed and that they can relay their concerns in regard to that. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members. Yeah, we have actually met the rugby club a couple of weeks ago. I do understand that there is further engagement tomorrow, but more than happy to arrange that further meeting. And indeed, we will update members by way of a committee report as well. Thanks.
Appreciate that. It might actually be useful if elected members were able to come along to support the club in any meeting going forward, especially those that they have contacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And I do have two chairpersons' business myself. The first one is I wanted to take this opportunity to raise an issue of the Irish language strike that has taken place today for the first time in protest at cuts to cross-border language funding. The half-day strike has been prompted by the cut by the Irish Language Agency for us Nageliga. I felt it was important that I raise this issue today and to formally acknowledge the concerns expressed by the Irish Language Organization in relation to their current funding status. Around a quarter of the Forest Nageliga funding is from the Stormont Executive and around 3/4 is from the Irish government. And Forest Nageliga has said that it has to make savings of more than 800,000 euros in 2025, and that it will mean funding cuts to some groups operating here in Northern Ireland, including our city and district. More than 40 language organizations across the island of Ireland are taking part in the strike action today. And this is the first time the Irish language and the Gaelic community has taken such action. The Irish language organizations are encouraging both the Irish government and Stormont Executive here in the north to reverse the cuts and to put into place a long-term solution to the funding crisis. And I think as a council, we are not just committed, we are leading the way in fostering an inclusive environment where all cultural identities are respected. And as mayor of this city and district, I think it is very important that we acknowledge the significance of the Irish language within our city's diverse cultural landscape and pledge to support, to offer our support towards this campaign for an end to the cuts and a long-term funding solution to be found. Thank you very much, members. Councillor O'Farrell.
Gormil Morgan, listen, Boylum, Takia Kohorton, Runchin, no, Faklet or Tunchin. I would like to endorse every word you've said there. As you say, 75% of funding comes from the Dublin government, 25% comes from the executive, and Irish language groups are losing out big time because we've lost 400,000. So I can understand why they're out in strike, groups are worried now that their long-term life might be cut short by these cuts. And I think it's only fair that this council supports those who are out, especially those, the Culturland was out in Derry the other day. All Irish groups are going to be out who are funded by Forest na Gaelic, just to highlight these cuts. Now, I fully endorse what you're saying there. Gurmila Mayogad, Santi Sana.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harkin and then Councillor Boyle.
Thanks for letting me in, Mayor, and thanks for raising this today. I'm glad you did. And I think that the cuts at the Forest na Gaelic need to be reversed. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. I think it is a very positive development that organisations and workers right across the island on a 32 county basis are taking strike action today, and that includes workers at Culturland. And I've spoken to workers at Culturland today about what they're facing, and it's very, very clear that the pay for a lot of the workers in the Irish language sector isn't good enough, that organisations aren't being properly funded. And we know right now that there's a lot of forward momentum and excitement about the Irish language right across the island. And this needs to be properly funded and supported. And we have passed motions in this council to that effect. So for Stormont and the Dáil to be both slashing the funding right now for Irish language organisations that play a vital role, and for workers who are already underpaid, is just disgraceful. And it's disgraceful in the context of Stormont MLAs looking to give themselves a £20,000 rise when these workers are struggling to pay their rents and to keep the doors open and to meet the rise in need. So I think that it's unfortunate that they were forced to take strike action, but I think as a council, we should be fully behind them, and I'm glad we're talking about this today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Boyle.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll keep it brief because you've more or less outlined the SDLP position anyway, and we discussed this earlier, so I appreciate you bringing it up today, but I completely concur with the previous speakers as well. The Irish language sector across this island is an important sector. It contributes so much that is very, very positive and speaks so much about who we are and what we are. And on behalf of the SDLP, just to be associated again with your comments and again to agree with others as well. It's very evident that the level of funding cut that is coming down the line to these organisations could be something that makes it a very critical situation for people whose jobs particularly might be on the line as well. So it does appear that some form of new funding model will be required for this. That's what we would like to see as well. So again, thanks for raising the issue here today, Mayor, and of course also our solidarity to all of those who have felt it's so necessary today to take the action that they have taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Okay, my second item is really good news. I just wanted to take this moment to acknowledge the fantastic work that is going on at St. Colum's Park, where I got the chance to view the progress of the Acorn Farm project today. It's a really visionary and ambitious project for our council area, which will help change attitudes to food production and educate us all on how we can take more sustainable and responsible approaches. So today I joined children from Brady Jubilee Primary School who placed a time capsule in the foundation of the geodesic dome with their predictions about what humankind will be eating in 200 years' time. And while I hope we won't be eating seaweeds, pizzas, or bad 3D fish and chips, it was so heartwarming to see their passion and interest in looking after the world around them. So I just wanted to record our thanks to the council staff involved in this amazing and transformative project, and also to the Acorn Farm for their fantastic environment sustainability project. And you can all get a sneak peek today at BBC Northern Ireland at, I think, 6:30 or 6 o'clock. Okay. So moving on is agenda item 6, confirmation of the open minutes of the meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Wednesday, 29th January 2025, pages 7 to 40. Proposers? Thank you. Thank you. Any matters arising? Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Item C1125. We're nearly 5 weeks now following Storm Eowyn, and there still remains homes out in our rural areas that have no broadband or telephone services. I appreciate these have been exceptional circumstances, but I think it is really unacceptable at this stage that people remain without those kind of communication services. We have older people who are isolated. We don't have mobile signal in those areas. People who are working from home and students who can't access educational services. I think we've had Fibres come in here to our council chamber and ask us to promote their services, which we've done in rural areas. And yet when we need information from them now, that doesn't seem to be forthcoming. Communication has been exceptionally poor. And I would ask officers if they're doing any review of the services and the delivery after Storm Eowyn, that they please include Fibres and Openreach in those, because I think there's a lot of lessons we need to learn from that. I'm really disappointed and I'm concerned with the response that we've got from them. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. I have Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. It's item C16/25, and
Councillor Harkin, before we move on, I see Alderman Middleton wants to come in on the same issue. So thank you. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. Just very briefly, wanted to thank Councillor Devine for bringing up the situation as stands for many of our most isolated and sometimes most vulnerable rural residents. I just wanted to concur with all her comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. And Alderman Hosse, you want to come on the same issue?
Thank you, Mayor. Completely endorse what Councillor Devine has been saying there. I'm sure, like myself, she's been around some of the roads, and these aren't inaccessible areas where this is happening. You drive around the roads and you see lines down, lines parted, and they're not being fixed. It's not to say that that they're the back end of nowhere. These are on roads which are accessible, but they're cutting off so many people, not just mobile signals, but landline. And for many older people, that vital line of communication isn't there and hasn't been there for quite some time. So it has to be addressed as an urgent matter by whether it's BT, Outreach, Fibres, whoever it is. It can't go on like this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hossing. Okay, Councillor Harkin, apologies for that.
no problem, Mayor. Thank you for letting me in. Yes, it's the item C16/25. It's disappointing to see that the Irish government hasn't responded to our call not to end its support for the Occupied Territories Bill and essentially scrap it. But I wanted to report that we had a very positive meeting of the BDS working group here at Council this week, and it was the first week that formally included BDS Strabane, Derry APSC, and the Bloody Sunday Trust. And I think at that meeting, a number of us, or all of us, have been quite frustrated about the pace of action that we've been able to take, but we got very positive updates at that meeting about divestment, about moving forward with the ethical procurement policy as well. And we're eager to see that develop out now in the coming months. There was a few issues that was raised with us by council officers. One was that for us to be able to continue to promote our support of BDS through our social media, we would have to update we would have to as a council agree to that because I think that we had said something along the lines of like, until there is a ceasefire, we will promote through BDS. Now, there is a ceasefire. It's very tenuous. There's a lot of problems with it, but Israel's also escalating its war of ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. So it's by no means the case that the war is over and that Palestinians are going to be able to enjoy self-determination and freedom. So I think that the working group all agreed that we would want to continue to use our platforms to promote our support for BDS, and would work with communications teams to figure out exactly the best ways to do that in the weeks and months ahead. And then the second one was that, look, we wanted to commend some of the businesses and organisations in Derry, Strabane and probably elsewhere that have sourced alternative cola brands and other brands that are not complicit with genocide and apartheid. Because I think that that is a positive development to see organisations and businesses in the district supporting the grassroots and council supported effort around BDS, and that we would also look at a paper ourselves to look at like how we could procure alternative brands as well that are not complicit with BDS. So it's really just to ask for a paper for that. So we can have further discussion on it, and to thank those businesses that have been responding to the call from Palestine solidarity organisations for to support BDS.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Donnelly, is it on the same issue?
It is just the second with Councillor Harkin's proposal. Look, never again means never again for everybody. And, you know, there's a ceasefire. There's a ceasefire that's nearly unrecognisable when there's been hundreds of people have been killed since it and injured. So it's only a ceasefire for certain people in name. But if there's a price to pay for what the unimaginable suffering and slaughter that the Zionist regime has inflicted, and we can't take our foot off the pedal because there is a so-called ceasefire. I think that if the Zionist regime gets away with this, then it will continue and will do it again. So I think it's important that BDS is very, very important until these people are held to account. So I'm just the second Councillor Harkin's proposal.
Thank you. Okay, I think I have Councillor McHugh.
It's C35/25. It's the special planning committee meeting, and that's in relation to the granting or approval of the Mitchell Park upgrade with new 3G and tram trails. I just think it's appropriate to put in record the commendation to our officers, particularly in sports development and capital development, which crosses both health and communities, business and culture. I just want to commend their perseverance in overcoming numerous challenges, to say the least. As part of the working group or the steering group, we were able to see firsthand some of the challenges that our officers were presented with. So I think it's a credit to their perseverance that they were able to overcome those challenges to get the application to committee with a recommendation to approve. I know there was concerns from local residents, and I believe that they have been those concerns have been addressed. I've no doubt that going forward now that this development will be a great asset to the entire community of Castledearg, and in particular the sports clubs, who will obviously make most use of it. And I look forward, Mayor, to having you in Castledearg to see turning the sod in the near future, no doubt. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McHugh. I'll be there in a heartbeat if you invite me. Okay, members, the next agenda item is confirmation of the open minutes of the reconvened meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Thursday, 30th January 2025, pages 41 to 54 for accuracy. Thank you, Councillor Boyle. And seconder.
Mayor, if you allow me briefly, just when I was speaking there before, what I meant to say was environment and regeneration as well, rather than business and culture, just in case Karen takes any offence.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a seconder for that? We don't? Thank you. Okay, any matters arising? No? Okay, moving on. Confirmation of the open minutes of the special meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Monday, 10th February 2025, pages 55 to 62 for accuracy. Councillor Boyle, thank you. Any other member who was in the meeting? Thank you, Councillor Devine. Any matters arising? Nothing. Moving on. Confirmation of the open minutes of the special meeting of the Derry City and Strabane District Council held on Wednesday, 19th February 2025. For accuracy. Thank you, Alderman Montgomery. Seconder, please. Thank you very much. Councillor Murphy, any matters arising? Nothing. Okay. Adoption of the open minutes of the following committees: bi-monthly assurance, audit and risk committee held on Monday, 3rd February 2025, pages 63 to 68 for accuracy. Thank you, Councillor. And thank you, Councillor Houghton. Any matters arising? Nothing. Thank you, members. Monthly Governance and Strategic Planning Committee held on Tuesday, 4th February 2025, pages 69.
Opposed.
Thank you very much. Any matters arising?
Councillor Cusick.
Ronald, let John will join shortly.
Councillor Deeney.
Councillor Boggs, do you want to put your mic off, please? Thank you. We notice. Thank you. Looking to come in. All right. Is that on governance? Thank you. You want to come in?
It's GSP 34/25, the Q3 financial return report. And Mayor, I'm begging your indulgence in this one. The financial return report that was presented by our Chief Financial Officer sort of outlines the very tight parameters the council operates its finance is within, and I just want to highlight our concerns that have emerged over the last week or so in relation to a decision by the Communities Minister around the NI Football Fund and the implications that this would have for our council. As this Q3 outturn report highlights, that council isn't awash with additional money, and there was criteria among that's within that NI Football Fund that's unleashed that was unveiled by the minister, the Communities Minister, that placed a stipulation that any council applications required 40% contribution. There's the football fund has been long awaited. It's something that the people of this city and district have been crying out for some time. The delays have been met with frustrations, and it was long awaited. I know this council have been working very closely with Derry City Football Club to advance a business case. They apply for this, which would include the extension to the Mark Barnes stand. In fact, the Department of Communities funded that business case that was predicated on a 5% contribution. The change in criteria, the inclusion of the 40% has essentially excluded this council from applying. It is, in our view, it's very concerning if there was people that are more cynical minded than us could describe it as discriminatory. It's deliberately discriminating against a council that have been made it very clear we hope to be making an application. So I know from our party, we had challenged, raised the concerns, highlighted the concerns of this council at the scrutiny committee last week. And there was agreement at that committee that the DFC officials would urgently meet with councils and discuss and update councils. I want to first ask council officers, has that engagement taken place? And secondly, Mayor, I'm happy to propose that we write to the minister requesting that an extension to this, highlighting our concerns in relation to the unequal unequal treatment or criteria around the 5% and the 40%, and the unrealistic expectation for councils to come up with that level of funding within a very short period of weeks. And I would request that we request an extension to the deadline, which is the 14th of March. Mayor, I know from our perspective, we have asked for within the Communities Committee, we've asked for a briefing on the NI Football Fund. We know that briefing will take place on the 9th of March. So there's questions, there's answers that this council are demanding. Hopefully we will get those answers and get that clarity on the 9th of March. But the deadline is the 14th, very tight time frame to turn around a significant application and an application that would have such an impact in this council area. So I am requesting that we write to the minister to request an extension to that deadline. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Before we respond, can I get Councillor Farrell?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Jackson. I'm happy to second that proposal if it hasn't already been seconded. We had a wide-ranging discussion regarding the redevelopment of the Brian McBride Brandywell Stadium and confidential at Health and Communities, but I think it is appropriate that it's raised in a public forum because people need to understand the challenges that exist around this process. I think everybody's going to be aware that we had the Sub-Regional Stadia Fund was first mooted, I think it was 14, 15 years ago, and that was on the back of Ravenhill getting millions, Windsor Park getting millions. I'm not going to mention Casement, but there was 3 stadia in Belfast that got substantial money from Stormont. Derry got nothing. So this fund is long overdue, but the news that has come out that councils have to match fund this application to the tune of 40% is completely unfair. If a club submits an application, they're expected to match fund a minimum of 5%. When it comes to council-owned property, it's 40%. So we think that's not fair. It's not balanced. And Gordon Lyons thinks that the councils have like stashes of cash put away. We don't. And we went through a very, very difficult rates process, which was made even more difficult by the fact that Gordon Lyons himself has not provided funding that is required to this council in the form of the rates support grant. So he's taken away the rates support grant. and now he's putting a 40% tax on any development at the Ryan McBride Stadium. We think that's wrong. We think that decision needs to be revisited. We think we need to hear from DFC officials. So happy to support Councillor Jackson's proposal.
Councillor Harkin and then Alderman Hussain.
Thank you, Mayor. We are also happy to support Councillor Jackson's proposal, and thank you to council officers for moving so quickly in this in terms of getting the council into a position where it can make a case to the minister that this is an injustice. There is a great expectation that the Ryan McBride Brandywell Stadium is redeveloped. This is a huge opportunity for that to happen. And now the minister is putting unnecessary obstacles in the way. And I think that the request that we find money for a 40% match funding to the department's contribution is unacceptable. So I think, one, we need to make it clear that we're being asked to make this decision in an extraordinary quick way. And two, that we need to, as others have said, revisit the requirements. If this happens, it will just continue the many years of underfunding for the Brandywell Stadium and for sports right across our district. So, and as others have said as well, look, the minister will be well aware of our budgetary constraints, given that the Stormont executive wasn't able to provide support for the national insurance contributions that the council will face, even though there might be a pot of money for that. And we also haven't had the value of the rate support grant restored. So there's every reason why the minister should look at this immediately and make sure that our council is able to take advantage of this to develop the Ryan McBride Brandywell Stadium. But very happy to support the proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Totally understand and appreciate the frustration that's been expressed in the chamber around this particular issue. Remind members that the sub-regional stadia programme is directed at football clubs, and those clubs in particular that own their own grounds. In the past, I had mentioned in this chamber the potential for Derry City Football Club to acquire the stadium. Now, I understand, and maybe we can have clarification on it, that there may be some legal grounds as to why they cannot do so. To me, that would be the ideal solution for the football club to acquire the stadium and get the 95% funding going forward. As I say, I understand the frustration and will have no problem supporting the motion that we ask for that delay. But remember, the full purpose of the grant aid is not to benefit local authorities, it's to benefit football clubs. And I understand the tangential nature of the football club benefiting via this as well. But we've got to be aware of the criteria within the particular funding. I appreciate also that it was mentioned that perhaps that criteria has been changed. If that is the case, that's wrong. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Hussain. I'll bring John in.
Thank you, Mayor. I just answered the question from Councillor Jackson. There has been regular correspondence both between council officers and Derry City Football Club officers and DFC officers, but I'm not aware of any specific communication from DFC following the question asked at the scrutiny committee, unless my colleague Karen is aware of specific.
Members, as I indicated at the working group yesterday, there has been contact in relation to the grassroots strand of the funding programme, and council officers will meet to discuss that specifically, but not in relation to the performance strand of the programme.
Okay, members, this is obviously very concerning and it is urgent. So I'm going to bend my own rules here to allow the proposal to come on the floor. I notice it has been seconded. I haven't had any dissenting voices, so should I assume it is unanimous? Thank you, members. Okay, do we have any other matters arising? Councillor Harkin?
Thank you, Mayor. GSP 3325. Look, I voted against the increase to the scheme of allowances for members here in the chamber. And I did that even though I was sympathetic to some of the arguments that I heard from members who were for it, because our members here have a basic payment or statement from the council of a little bit above £15,000, and the scheme of allowances increase would have brought it up to somewhere in the region of £17,500. Not a lot of money. And I stand over my vote to vote against that. But I am very concerned about the proposal to increase MLA pay to more than by 38%, around £19,000. MLAs are already paid more than £51,000. This is way above the average industrial wage for people across the north. It is way above the average wage in Derry. I would argue that MLAs don't actually need a pay raise, and if they do, well, so does everybody else, and they deserve a 38% wage as well. Now, the issues here are that, again, we were talking about Irish language workers today having to stand on the picket line because they're not being paid properly, and yet we have a situation where everybody can see what's happening, that MLAs are finagling a situation where they're going to give themselves a huge raise by any standards. And I think that the Lucid poll that came out this week tells us exactly what people think about what's happening. An overwhelming majority of people who were polled across the north oppose this raise for MLAs. I believe it was around 88% when it came to working class people. And that's because working class people don't understand or don't agree or don't support the idea that well-paid MLAs should be given a 38% pay raise when people in our society can't afford their rent, can't afford their groceries, are struggling with mortgages, are struggling with school uniform payments. And now we have a situation where the MLAs are going to up their pay. So for me, voting against a pay rise for councillors who are actually underpaid and voting against and not supporting an MLA pay raise of 38% is very, very consistent. So I would like to propose that this council write to the Stormont Executive, making clear that we oppose a 38% pay increase for MLAs, and that we can't stand over that when it is so above the average industrial wage, when it is so above the average wage of our residents who we represent, that it makes a mockery of workers standing on picket lines. It makes a mockery of people joining trade unions, and it's just an injustice. So I believe that it's important that we as a council take a firm stand in this, and that parties that opposed giving a pay raise to councillors back this proposal. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Donnelly, are you coming on the same issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, what councillors in here and aldermen are getting is a third of what MLAs are getting. They're getting 300% more. And there's people in this chamber had an issue. And they're only in this chamber because all our colleagues in other parts of the 6 counties didn't have an issue. And Councillor Harkin used the word there, mockery. And it is completely made a mockery of they want a pay rise, or they're supporting a pay rise that will be over 100% of what people in this council get as an elected rep, but yet weren't allowed or didn't think they should get a rise. I want to second Councillor Harkin's proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Jackson.
Mayor, I know there's a proposal on the ground, on the floor, and I'm not entirely sure if it's accepted.
Members, I bent my rules earlier because it is an urgent issue. I don't think this is urgent as much as I sympathize with the comments that have been made. And I think maybe I would ask Councillor Harkin to bring a motion for next month on this issue. Wanted to give everybody an opportunity to express their views, but I am not willing to bend the rules on this one because it means the next issue I have to bend the rules. I did that because it's an urgent issue that requires urgent attention.
Can I respond, Mayor? Is that all right? Yeah, look, firstly, I think we need to look at the idea that no motions can be allowed out of proposals or out of minutes. I think that we've been discussing that across the chamber, but we don't need to do that right now. My concern is that the body that's being set up to make this proposal is moving very, very quickly. So I think that if we want to influence what people in Stormont are thinking, that we should be able to do that this month and as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. I really genuinely think we have enough time to respond to that. I think there is an opportunity for the decision to go to public consultation in the end. So I think we should just follow the rules and get a motion drafted and submitted, and I will allow it for next council meeting. Is that all right? Councillor Jackson?
Mayor, and I appreciate your ruling on that. I just wanted to get that clarity, but on the issue, because it is right that it's highlighted, and I'm just for the record because we weren't in attendance when this was ratified and agreed last week when councillors in this chamber voted to give themselves a pay raise. And I am not disputing how valued that the work of colleagues within this chamber is, and I completely accept that the councillors should be paid a lot more than they are. Our issue has always been that it should never be us that are taking that decision. We had repeatedly voted against and rejected pay raises that over many years because we disagreed with the principle that we were taking the decision ourselves. So we don't believe that it's the role of any elected representative to vote on their own pay. We have a responsibility here to set paying conditions for people who are working within council, providing services to the people of this council district. It is not our role to set the pay of any other body. And I await and eagerly await a motion on this, but just highlighting that our position has always been and continues to be the case that it's not the role of elected representatives to set their own pay. And that is the reason why if we were in the chamber last month, we would have again rejected the pay raise that a lot of people give themselves last month. But people took the opportunity to give themselves that pay raise when we weren't there, and we accept that. But I do find it a bit strange now that we're setting our eyes and deciding what other people should be paid. But we await the motion and we'll reserve our comments.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Alderman Jose?
Thanks for the opportunity. The motion is gone or fallen, but can I say that I concur with Councillor Jackson on this particular issue? And this has been the issue all along, councillors voting on their own pay. And yet we're talking about a situation where MLAs will not be voting on their own pay. It's an independent body. And that's what we're looking for at council level, an independent body to determine whatever that determines is the remuneration for the job.
Thank you, Alderman Jose. Councillor Farrell?
Just briefly on this, Mayor, and thanks for letting me in. I didn't think we were going to have this councillor pay discussion again this month. And just to reiterate the SDLP position, we know there was a request for an adjournment at last month's full council, and we supported that request for an adjournment. We respected the democratic outcome, democratic decision of this council, and we proceeded with the rest of the agenda. Our position in terms of councillor pay was made very, very clear at governance, and we stuck to that position at full council. We accept that councillors should not be making decisions in their own pay, but we find it grossly unfair that councillors across Derry and Strabane are getting paid less than Mid Ulster, are getting paid less than Causeway Coast and Glens, are getting paid less than Fermanagh South Tyrone, every other council across the north apart from Belfast. So if we're serious about equality and fairness, it should be uniform across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Is that on the same issue, Councillor Harkin?
Yeah, look, I think we lost a bit of focus here about the issue. The issue is that MLAs, and I don't think it's an independent body, could be
Councillor
receiving.
Harkin, I'm going to stop you there because we're just going to go on and on about the same issue. Bring the motion and then we will have the conversation at that time. Thank you. Okay, moving on. We are on 13C, monthly planning committee held on Wednesday, 5th February 2025, pages 79 to 84 for accuracy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any matters arising? No? Okay, moving on. Monthly Business and Culture Committee held on Tuesday, 11th February 2025, pages 85 to 98 for accuracy. Thank you. Seconder, please. Thank you very much. Any matters arising? Councillor Harkin?
This is just well, actually it should have been, it's a small correction I think that needs to be made. It's BC 33/25. I had proposed that we try to engage with the new owners of the post office, not to have negotiations with the CWU because they're having their own negotiations, but to just, since we weren't getting a response from the post office about the issues we were trying to raise with them, that we try to engage and contact the new owners. So there's just a line in there that needs to be taken out, which is, we have a meeting set up now with the Communications Workers Union, I believe on March 26th, and thank you for officers for following up with that. So the proposal was that given Royal Mail's refusal to respond, that since Royal Mail is now being sold, that we try to engage with the new owners. The new owners are listed in the motion or the proposal. Very, very straightforward. It's not about negotiations with the CWU. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other matters arising? Okay, moving on to E, Monthly Environment and Regeneration Committee held on Wednesday, 12 February 2025, pages 99 to 110 for accuracy. Thank you, Councillor Riley. Thank you very much. Any matters arising? Harkin again.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. ER 30/25. I think we had a really useful and informative set of presentations from the Save the Moat campaign and from the environmental gathering regarding data centres, and not just data centres, but the issues connected to them in terms of the generation of renewable energy, energy costs, the looking at energy from an all-Ireland point of view, in terms of like energy security, social media platforms, the development of AI. And I think that my impression was that councillors who attended the meeting or maybe watched it back probably got a lot out of it. And I think it was important that we did it. The organisations that made the presentations had a series of proposals that they wanted for the council to actually endorse and to support. And they're included on page 102 of the document. If I could just bring attention to those. They're very straightforward. Council writes to the DFC to request that they exercise its oversight role and provide clear policy direction to local authorities on data centre planning decisions in line with commitments in the Climate Act. Council seeks clarity on the annual and daily energy usage by approved data centre and presents this to committee. Comparisons on household energy usage in the council area and across the north and the impact on energy security. Number 3, Council presents a report to the committee to outline its obligations under the Climate Act for data centres and other big emitters of greenhouse gases. And number 4, Council confirms if the local development plan considers energy consumption and energy security as material considerations in planning decisions. And as I said, Mayor, these were all explained and argued at the actual committee meeting, and we made a commitment to make this as a proposal to the full council today. So I would like to propose that we accept those proposals that came from that deputation.
Do you have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Members, anyone who would like to contribute on that conversation? Councillor Jackson?
Yes, thanks, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Harkin. And I had watched the meeting back, and I suppose I'll start the outset by declaring an interest as a commissioner of Wildport who own some of the land that the approved data centre will be going. But with that declaration of interest, I am maybe in a privileged position to have a bit more understanding of the process. I know some of the figures that were presented by the activists that came to committee were wrong. No, but it was they accepted themselves that the information that they obtained was via the media. So there was a lot of inaccuracies that raised concerns from those that presented to the committee. And I know that they suggested the proposals at the committee, and there was no members of that committee that supported them enough to make the proposal. But it doesn't mean that they don't sympathise with the campaigns. But the fact remains is that we do have a professional planning department. We do have. I think it's unfair for people to say that it's their job. They stand up for the environment. It's their job to scrutinise planning applications and assess them against any potential environmental damage. That's the role of our professional planning officers, and they do it quite diligently. So, and in the case of the application that was approved, they did assess that, and they did assess environmental impacts, and they reassured and assured the committee on that regard, and the committee took its decision. I have every confidence in our planning team. I have every confidence that decisions and recommendations are coming from informed positions. They're not coming from speculation. They're not coming from information that may have been obtained from a newspaper article. They're obtained from facts, and they're obtained from professionals. So from our perspective, we are not we're not supportive of the proposals that are in front of us, and we're part of the planning process, and we feel that is the time and the space for people to have those conversations, and in a factual way where we can explore things, talk things out, and tease out any concerns that have been made. But where there's people on the other side of the table that are in positions to give us the information and answer the questions that we've got, I think that making presentations to committees where there is no opportunity for applicants to respond isn't the way they do our business, and it's not the way that we should be looking for our city and district to grow. So on that basis, we are not supportive of the proposal. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Boyle?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose, like Councillor Jackson, I should probably start by also declaring an interest as a fellow commissioner on the Port and Harbour. And I actually recused myself from this particular presentation at the time because I had a fair idea that there would be some degree of discussion about a recent planning application for a data centre on lands belonging to the Port and Harbour. So on that occasion, I thought it wisest to remove myself from the room, and so therefore seeing no prejudice on either side in relation to it. But I mean, Councillor Jackson kind of went round the houses with this one, but I mean, the reality of it is that I actually do agree, and we do agree as well. There is a planning system in place. It's there for a reason. We have professional planning officers. I'm sure it was probably pointed out at the meeting at the time. If it wasn't, it certainly should have been. And that is that if anyone has got any objections or are even in support of a planning application, there is ample opportunity to put those views forward through the process and dealing with council officers, planning officers, professional planning officers. I did, of course, get the opportunity to read some of the presentation. I share the views of Councillor Jackson. I thought some of the information contained in it was questionable. There was reference to water cooling of data centres. I know that the data centre that has been approved out in lands out at the port will not be a water-cooled data centre. It would be an air-conditioned, air-cooled data centre. So there was reference to that as far as I can remember. And really just genuinely here, and from our end, you know, we don't want to get into a situation where we see it evolve, where we're actually circumventing the rules, the regulations, the planning policies, the things that actually dictate what it is that planning officers can recommend to elected representatives on the planning committee. I should probably declare an interest too, because I sit in the planning committee, but I mean, how many interests could you have if you're a councillor? So just to say, Mayor, completely concur with Councillor Jackson and his Sinn Féin colleagues in regard to this one. This wouldn't be appropriate. It would just be beyond what we think would be appropriate. There are planning officers there, they're professionals, they've done their degrees, they've done all their training, and they're there for a reason. And we must and should always try and trust their judgment and the recommendations that they give to us. I know we don't always agree with them, but we do our best to work together in relation to that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks.
Boyle. Alderman Jose.
Sure, I'm beginning to get worried because I'm in total agreement with Councillor Jackson on this again today. And I think if folk look at the minutes, they will see that this is the sort of concern that I expressed.
Members, a bit of quiet, please, so we can hear. Apologies. Go ahead.
Members, if they look at the minutes, will note that this is the sort of concern that I had expressed, misinformation, etc., that might be coming through. I said that this was a comprehensive presentation. I acknowledged it was a complex subject, and I suggested a seminar on the subject involving the wider stakeholders. Mr. Gormley, in response, stated he also agreed that because it was a complex issue, that a seminar for key stakeholders would be the most beneficial way to take it forward in the future. You know, rather than jumping straight in to the proposals that are there, you know, that's what I've said and that's what I stick by. So I cannot support the motion as it stands. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, Alderman Jose. I do have Councillor Donnelly.
I'm now good, Chair. Chair, I was at that meeting. I'm not a member of the committee. There was a lot of information given, and the people who were doing the presentation were saying that, you know, they couldn't stand over the statistics, but they compared to the 26 counties where, you know, these centres use a significant section of the electricity grid. There was a lot of information. So it is unfolding, and Councillor Jackson will tell us that he's in a privileged position and has information and whatever, and Councillor Boyle will tell us that we should just trust the planning permission. But there was nothing that came back from anybody this side of the room or from the top table to sort of allay any of the concerns or fears. But yet at this meeting now we're told just trust the planning committee and everything's okay. But there's a number of proposals here, and I can't see where the issue is. Which proposals would have a problem with? Because they seem to be very reasonable proposals. But instead of going through the proposals and saying, well, this one's out of that, let's not do that one, there seems to be more or less no problem. Just have faith in the planning system. So I'm no clear following the previous speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. I have Alderman Middleton online.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. And just to begin, I would also like to declare an interest as a Commissioner of the Londonderry Port and Harbour. I also left the meeting referenced by Councillor Boyle to tech. I would like it noted that the DUP do concur with the comments of Councillor Jackson, Councillor Boyle and Alderman Hussey, and therefore would not be supporting the motion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Middleton, and I have Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor. Just from listening to a few previous speakers, like it's like we're living on a bubble. And the denial, you know, that a lot of capitalists have used in the past around the climate, greenhouse gases, not happening, it's not this, it's not that. And if we were to follow capitalists, the world would destroy itself. And then the millionaires will head off to space. That's what they'll do. We set acts and laws to try and protect this environment. Now, my reading of this presentation was a generalization. It wasn't specific to a planning application per se. And it seems to me that Councillor Jackson was trying to hide behind, and we've heard this previously, oh, this is an attack on our staff. This has nothing to do with attack on our staff. Absolutely nothing. And it's not a slight on our staff or our planning staff. This is about legitimate concerns that were raised at a committee like other concerned residents come in to do. But it seems to be some speakers want to be dismissive of the presentation that was given because they used a specific quote from a specific paper. But don't dismiss it. This presentation was about a specific headline in a paper. It was much more than that. It was detailed. It was across the board, and it was specific to concerns that people were raising. And of the feedback from that presentation is as dismissive as I think the interpretation has been given here today. I think we're going down a bad road and we would be in a bad place, and we'll come back out very recently around planning processes are not open and transparent. They need to be open and transparent, and we need to accept presentations that come in that might disagree with certain things. We have to accept that. But the proposals may go a long way to alleviating any fears that our citizens may have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. I have Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. Just coming on that because it's quite a lively debate on the point anyway. And
I did have an opportunity to watch online the presentation, and certainly wouldn't dismiss anybody coming to council. I think we're here to provide that opportunity for local residents to come and present to councillors and with their concerns. But looking at the 4 points that I think is probably important is there's probably only one key point here, and that's the last one. The other 3 are sort of, to me, quite separate. I wish those people had came a couple of years back, because our LDP now is going to come into force in 2 months' time. And that's the context that we're in. That large document that we have a draft already, only maybe 300 or 400 pages, that's the key document. It's going to be set in stone now in the next couple of months. And the key, the ask at the end, when it says considers energy consumption, I would ask those people who presented to go and get a copy of the draft and look at that there. Unfortunately, they may not have an opportunity or at that time, or maybe it wasn't within their mind at that time, this issue. But 2 months' time, this is going to be set in stone effectively for until the next edition. But the other 3 to me are probably separate issues. 2 relate to the Climate Act. Our LDP is whatever's in that document. Our LDP has got the plans that we've set through. It's gone through 2 very, very diligent and very, very difficult processes. One's at the PAC and then one through the department itself. And it came out there in December. I'm not disputing anybody's veracity coming to the council. I would probably need time to look at what the facts or what the presentation was from the presenters themselves. But I think at the core of the 4 asks, the last one is probably the main one. If it centres around our decision-making ability in this area, and that is the planning committee, the local development plan is going to be coming set in stone now in 2 months' time. There can't be any changes to it, until the next time around, probably the next 15 years or whatever. So I would have probably maybe asked maybe Councillor Harkin, who brought that, they look at that themselves, and they look at the LDP, and I say it in the greatest, without, I don't want to sound any way wrong or appear to be wrong, but that's the document that we have. That's the document that the planning committee is now going to be used to present on these matters. Number 1, about the Climate Act, Councillor Rachel DFA and raising that there. I think Councillor Jackson was obviously right. Whatever packs that we have or whatever applications come before our council, our planning officers will do their due diligence and bring it forward to us, whoever sits in the planning committee. But really, at the end of the day, I think what I'm trying to say, I suppose, is that number 4 is the crucial ask here. They are, I won't say are superfluous, but they aren't probably as major as number 4. And the fact is that the LDP is what we use. We don't use any other documents. I'll stand subject to correction, but the Climate Act itself, I don't think we can even take into consideration because it's not part of the LDP, unless there's some other mechanism that will allow it. Again, I say it's subject to correction from the city solicitor and from other people at the top table there. But I think, as I said already, it was unfortunate that those concerns weren't presented during the courtesy of the roundtables. And I really mean that, because obviously they could have been taken into consideration then. But now we have well, unfortunately, that's a situation now where we have, if what you're saying now is that it's only a live issue now. That's unfortunate.
Thank you, Councillor Mooney. Councillor Harkin and then Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. Yeah, look, I'm a wee bit surprised at some of the responses, to be quite honest. I'm glad Councillor Donnelly asked people which of the proposals do you actually object to, because this is about getting information. This is not about disciplining our planning officers or trying to take the planning committee to task. It's about saying that there's not enough information, there's not enough guidance around data centres, exactly because it is a new phenomenon for Derry in the Northwest to be dealing with proposals for big data centres that actually consume a lot of energy. And as the people presenting said, we are working very hard to develop renewable energies. For a lot of that to end up being used by data centres and for our prices not to come down for householders, for businesses, would be a serious, serious problem. So it's not right either to dismiss activists and campaigners for bringing in information. You actually need to challenge it and say, this is where that's wrong. Nobody was challenged. Nobody came in and said, actually, your stats are wrong. Here's the stats. Here's the actual stats. People can only work with what they can see and the information that they can gain access to. Now, when it comes to the issue of data centres, this is an all-Ireland issue which came up in the discussion. And I just read a headline of Sinn Féin in the south saying 50% now of energy consumption in Dublin and Meath is used by data centres. 21% of energy use in the south right now is used by data centres. And that's why Sinn Féin backed the People Before Profit motion in the south and the Dáil to restrict data centre usage. So the idea that we can't have a discussion about data centres with more information where campaigners are coming to us, because the people that came to the Dáil, to People Before Profit and to Sinn Féin and other parties, were campaigners and activists who were lifting information from wherever they could get it, research papers, and that's how they were able to convince legislators in the south that this is a serious issue. So I think it's all unfair to castigate campaigners and activists who took their own time to come in here and make a presentation to the council and have a series of recommendations, really, because that's what these come down to. They come down to, and we've already been told, and it hasn't been challenged, that the Stormont executive and various ministers are not actually.
Mayor, I'm not aware of anyone in this chamber castigating those who come in.
Well, look.
Thank you, Alderman Housing.
When you dismiss activists as having the wrong information, and that basically belittles.
I think there was no dismissal, it was accuracy to say that there were some statistics.
They're not
that
here to
were
defend
wrong.
themselves, Mayor.
So can we then leave this conversation and move forward?
If I could just finish my points. Yeah, look, nobody at the meeting from the party that has made these accusations about information said that at the meeting. Your information is wrong. Here's the actual
While I was not in the meeting, my understanding that it was deferred to come here, so maybe that was for the reason of getting more information. I want to bring other members who have.
Can I just a point of order, just 1 second? I think there may be a slight difficulty going forward about these type of presentations. It's very difficult if you sit on a committee and challenge somebody who presents facts and figures when you haven't probably had an opportunity to sit down beforehand and actually go through them yourself. You know, so that presentation was an ENR a couple of weeks back. When you go on as a councillor, I'm not on that committee. I watch it online. But how do you challenge somebody who presents a set of no, before you actually, how do you challenge somebody? And I mean this in the most nicest way. How do you challenge somebody who presents facts and figures on that day? So, you know, that's my point. So
Mayor, I have a
I'm gonna have to move to somebody else to speak on this issue.
It's a direct question, so
I'm gonna have to bring Councillor Logue because she's been waiting for a very long time, and I think we need to move on.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just say, I wasn't at, sorry, just hang out my paper. I wasn't at this meeting. However, after looking at the minutes, I cannot see anywhere in the minutes of this meeting where it was decided or proposed.
Members, please let us give some respect to our speaker.
Proposed that it would be brought back for decision at full council. I do see that Councillor Harkin endorsed it, but there was no proposal to bring these 4 recommendations from the people who presented to this full council. So that's one thing. Another thing, you know, it's okay to say that these 4 proposals are quite easy to understand and all of that, but before I would agree to any proposals, especially regarding, and it does mention policy, and we have the issue of the plan, which Councillor Minnie has already alluded to. As a member of the Planning Committee, I would rather be very diligent in making and accepting any proposals, and I would want to see what they actually meant before I personally would endorse them. And just to finish off, Mayor, I do think that the member has been a bit disingenuous to other members when he said that we are kind of not for activism. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Jackson, and then we are going to move.
Thanks, Mayor. And I just wanted to respond to some of the comments because I deliberately, and whenever I started speaking, commended those that came in and spoke, and I commended their efforts, those activists, and I genuinely meant it. I think Councillor Harkin alluded to the fact that they're not here to just defend themselves. They're not under attack in any way, and because you disagree with the position doesn't mean that you're attacking somebody. And if you outline a position and expect everybody to believe or demand everybody to agree in your position, I think that's called fascism. And I don't believe that there's too many people in this chamber thinks that that's the way forward. The proper process in relation to this is the planning process. I encourage people to get involved in that, raise their concerns, and allow this discussion and allow questions to be answered by people who are in a position to answer them. The people that presented, I wish them well. I hope they continue in their activism, and I hope they continue to make presentations to this council. But it doesn't mean they don't have a mandate. And I want to be clear, they do not have a mandate. They tell us what to do and what we have to do. And I take that on board. But I hopefully I've cleared that up, Mayor. But there's a proposal on the table.
Yeah.
And from our perspective, we are not supportive of it.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Okay, so we are going to have to deal with the proposal now, and then I will bring you in to sum up after this. I think we need to move forward now. There is a proposal on the floor. It has been seconded. I have had dissenting voices, so I'm going to call for a vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just check, is Alderman Guy with us?
No.
No, okay. Alderman Cook? Alderman Cook? No.
She's gone.
Okay, thank you.
No, she's on. She's on.
Alderman Cook, can you hear me? Okay. Alderman Hussey? Alderman McMorris?
Against.
Alderman Middleton?
Against.
Alderman Montgomery?
Against.
Alderman Wilkinson?
Against, John.
Councillor Jason Barr?
For.
Councillor Lillian Barr?
Against.
Councillor Boggs?
Neil John.
Councillor Boyle?
Against.
Councillor Clark? Councillor Cusick?
Abstain, John.
Councillor Deeney?
Neil.
Councillor Devine? Councillor Donnelly? Councillor Alex Duffy?
Aye.
Councillor Sandra Duffy?
Neil.
Councillor Farrell?
Against.
Councillor Fleming?
Neil.
Councillor Gallagher?
For.
Councillor Harkin? Councillor Hart?
Neil.
Councillor Heaney?
Neil.
Councillor Hutton?
Neil.
Councillor Jackson?
Neil.
Councillor Logue?
Against.
Councillor McDade? Councillor McGinley?
Neil.
Councillor McHugh? Councillor Mooney? Councillor Murphy?
Neil.
Councillor O'Farrell? Councillor Riley? Councillor Tierney?
Against, John.
Councillor Neelis?
Neil.
Thank you, members.
John, it's Alderman Cook here. Sorry, my mute button wouldn't come off. Against for me.
Against. Councillor Cook.
Thank you. Mayor, I've recorded 4 for, 30 against, 1 abstention, so the proposal falls.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin, I'll give you 1 minute
Thank you, Mayor.
maximum.
Yeah, look, thanks for allowing the discussion to happen and the vote to happen. It was my intention to bring this forward because it wasn't proposed by any of the committee members at the meeting, which was disappointing. I wasn't a committee member. That's why I brought it forward today. In answer to the how do you respond to statistics, the organisations had a paper that was available in the agenda. It was available well before the ENR meeting. It was available well before this meeting today for people to go and read it, and people could read the document. They could also listen to the meeting, and then people could go and ask questions to others they might think had information. So look, I think it's disappointing that these proposals that are about seeking more information, that there was this level of concern and disagreement with them. I think people are uncomfortable with the discussion about data centres. It's not an issue for political parties in the south, but all of a sudden it's a big issue that people are afraid to confront here in the north. It is clear that Stormont isn't given any guidance on it. And that's why campaigners and activists and researchers and experts are asking and looking to councils and trying to provide information and trying to provide guidance. It's not trying to impose something. That's not what people come to the council to do. No deputation tries to impose anything on anyone. That's what Donald Trump does. He imposes things on people. That's not what environmental campaigners are doing. Donald Trump is
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. 1 minute is up now.
what has been
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Monthly Health and Community Committee held on Thursday, 13th February 2025, pages 101 to 122 for accuracy. Thank you. Thank you. Any matters arising? Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. And if you think I'm overstepping the mark on this, just tell me so. But HC30, the Derg Active project, Councillor McKay's already referred to some elements of that. But the phase 2 is looking at the diamond regeneration in Castlederg. As members will perhaps remember, I was delegated by council to attend the Future High Streets Summit. It was actually held yesterday in Belfast, which I did do. And they had a panel of MLAs, 1 MP and 4 MLAs, on the subject of the High Street Summit. Within their plans going forward, they are suggesting, if I can find it again, supporting of independent retailers, other town centres with streetscape improvements and infrastructure investments. Now, it strikes me that this council does that, and the evidence is there via the likes of the Derg Active project, via the likes of Newton Stewart regeneration, Sion Mills regeneration, and projects in the city. This council works on that. But it was worrying to hear within that the fears that our retail sector are experiencing at the moment. And Retail NI had conducted a survey in December and February, just from December through to February just passed. And I want to relate these figures to members. The cost of national insurance rise and increasing minimum wage, the average cost to Northern Ireland retailers, members, will be £90,000 per year. Will this result in job losses? 74% of the respondents are saying yes, it will. Will it result in their expansion plans for business being cancelled? 86%, yes, it will. Do rate increases impact on your business? 89%, yes, seriously concerned about rates increases. Do you believe enough is being done by the Northern Ireland Executive to tackle the cost of doing business? 96% believe that not enough is being done by the Executive. But one of the things I pointed out at that summit was that local councils and local councillors are at the cold face on this issue. And I feel it would be beneficial for council to hear from Retail NI via inviting Glenn Roberts to come along to our chamber and explain the survey and to talk over the five-step plan that they have to assist retailers. They concentrated on MLAs and the executive, but I honestly believe that at a local level, councils can be extremely effective and are proving by reacting. We were doing stuff here that they're asking folk to do before anybody else was doing it with regard to this regeneration and within our communities, etc. There are 5 points there. But what I would ask is that council would consider inviting Retail NI, preferably Glenn Roberts, to come along, make a presentation to council on this extremely worrying situation that retail finds itself in. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Jose. I hear you're making a proposal. I am going to be consistent. I am going to ask you to bring a motion next month because I just refuse to allow a proposal to come on the table. And I hear you, but I really want to be consistent on this. I'm only going to allow proposals of urgent matters like the one that was brought earlier.
Thank you, Mayor. It'll be a very simple proposal to invite the gentleman along.
Thank you. Okay, any other matters arising? Okay, moving on to confidential.